Today, we're addressing a widely requested video on how to create a portfolio using Adobe InDesign. So I'm really excited to present this video to you guys today, and I promise that by the end of the video, you are gonna have some more InDesign knowledge, as well as be able to have all of the fundamental skills to come up and create your own portfolio masterpiece. And not to mention, on top of that, I've took the time and created some of my own templates of my project spreads that you're gonna see in the video that you'll be able to download. So be sure to stick around to the end to see how you can get your hands on those things. But without further ado, let's hop into the tutorial. So the very first thing you want to do before you go any further is you want to make sure you have these two things ready. One is to make sure you have all of your portfolio files picked out, your images, your projects, etc. And two, to have spent some time looking for some inspiration on portfolios and their layouts over on Issue or Behance. Now, if this is sounding foreign to you and you don't really know what a portfolio is all about, then don't worry, I've made an entire video covering exactly what you need to know before you go into creating this thing. So I'll make sure to put that link in the description below, as well as up in the card here. It's a really informative video, and you're gonna come out of it knowing exactly what you're going to need for it, and you'll be as best prepared as possible going into creating it. I can't stress this enough, don't skip out on the first two steps, because it's gonna make your job a lot easier when you're going to put the thing together if you already know what you're looking for and what you want to put in there. But let's assume that you already know everything possible about portfolios and you are the portfolio expert. What your first step is going to be is the following. The first will be your setup format. Now for today's purposes, I'm going to show you a landscape spread. So a couple things to do here are to set up the name for the file. The dimensions are going to be 8 by 10. Make sure these are in inches and make sure that you have checked the right orientation. And then if you plan to make a spread, meaning that it opens up like a book, then turn on the facing pages tab. And then you should be all set. If you wanted to, you could also set up the margins and things here too, but I like to leave it on default and then go in and change or add guides as I kind of create a spread. Now the next step is going to be to start creating your spreads. Now I recommend doing some initial setup on master pages, or otherwise known as parent pages. And then you can either continue a format in those parent spreads or do the rest in the working document. Now again, what's great about the parent pages is that they are a fantastic way to make small updates to things like page numbers, legends, dates, and other things that show up over and over again in your document. Because if you've done this correctly, all you need to do is change whatever formatting thing it is in that parent page, and then it's going to update throughout your document. So that's a great place to start. So to do that, you're going to want to double click into your A parent page. Next, start to set up some title blocks for your key information. Now, what's popular and really nice to show here is page numbers at the bottom right of both spreads. To do this, select into your text and navigate to Type, and then go down to where it says Insert Special Character, then select page number, and it will come in with a letter that corresponds to the parent page. Make sure you don't change anything besides the font, as it's tied to the document so that it's always going to display the correct page number, even though right now it's showing a letter that corresponds to that parent page. Additionally, a really nice thing to add here is a small color ribbon that will go behind your page number to give some style and create some flair into the thing. So in my case, I am selecting a nice kind of green color that I'm going to be using as a color that will kind of be a theme throughout the project in major text and so forth. To do that, make sure you're in the Properties tab and then just simply select Fill and insert whatever color that you may like to put in there. Next, in the top left, we're going to want to display what it is you're looking at. So in our case, our first setup that we're going to be doing is an About Me page and a Selected Works page. So again, select into your text and type those out. You don't need to do anything fancy for these. Once they're in there, they will show up over and over again in your document. And on the note of text and typeface, it's a good idea to pick out your font type and think about some of the hierarchy here. For me, I'm using a font called Rubik and using all caps for the titles and very important information. And then I'm going to use lowercase for information or subtext. But once you have that all set up looking like this, we can start building out the first spread. Now, like I said, the first half of the spread is going to consist of an About Me page, which will have a headshot, some text about me, and then corresponding contact info, experience, and skills. So for this, I'm going to need 2 columns, one for the headshot of me and the text that corresponds, and then one for the experience, contact, and everything else. Now, you can either approach this in 2 ways. You can either create a bunch of grids and guidelines and then fill in accordingly, or you can do kind of a guess and check with a picture frame box selected. For me, I like to do a bit of a hybrid. So to set up guidelines, head on over to the View tab and select Grids and Guides. Then in the next window, select how many rows and columns you have. I put the gutter down to 0, but basically a gutter just means how far the offset is from the edge of a page. So for example, you could set it as the same at the margins, which is 0.5, so then the guides will start from within that margin frame. If you want to see what they look like, make sure to check the preview box, and keep in mind that as you're doing this, you can always move the guides down the road and create new ones if you don't like them. But once you have it set up accordingly or how you like, select your rectangle frame tool and draw a box that's going to represent your desired outlines. For me, what I'm going for is 2 equal blocks that are somewhat within that margin space. One for the headshot and then one for text. Then once you have the proportions like you like, you can then fill them in by either hitting Control D on that picture frame, or in a text box, you can put in placeholder text by going back into the type dropdown and select Fill with Placeholder Text. I like to do this so that you can play with your font type and see how it'll look all filled out before you go and waste time actually filling it out. Now, on the other half, we're going to want to fill in our experience and so forth, which is going to be a combination of a title subtitle combo. A pro tip for this is to make sure that your text aligns with the top of your picture and that it's kind of contained within the same parameters as your first image and left side column is. To do this, make sure that you're dragging your guidelines, if you did so, to the top of your image, and make sure to have your Snap to Smart guides turned on by hitting Control U. Additionally, when you're moving things around, if you're holding the Shift key, it'll lock it horizontally or vertically, so that way it's not getting adjusted otherwise. But now we can start filling out, that basic information like contact, experience, and skills. Context is pretty straightforward. Just, your name, who you are, how to reach you. The experience is going to be treated like a resume where, you have your job title, your location, and your duration worked, followed by a list of things that your job had to do or you accomplished. For the skills portion, I like to make a little graphic that, makes it more unique than the typical 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 list for your corresponding skills. So start off by listing your skills that you want to include, and then next to it, make a little rectangle bar that is black. Make this bar a little bit less than how wide the text is, and then go on into the Properties tab and turn down the opacity down to 30%. And then select all of them by either holding Shift and clicking on each one, or clicking your mouse and dragging over all of them, and then copy them with Control C, and then right click and click Paste in Place to get them in the exact same place. Now, with those all selected, change the opacity to about 70% so you have 2 rectangles on top of each other, one at 30 and one at 70. Now with the darker one, you're going to want to move that bar to fill out however much your skills line up like so. So now you have a nice About Me resume page that they can look to and see everything about you. It looks really clean, concise, and has some nice graphic to it. Now, another pro tip for this is to really check your spacing for all of this and make sure it's very consistent. Be sure to be holding Shift if you're moving things around, or drag them and make sure that they're, lining up within a parameter. Additionally, another thing you want to look at is the size of your text and seeing how well that reads. You want to make sure it reads very easily, but also doesn't take up too much space and kind of grab the entire page. So for me, subtext, this is between 8 and 11 size font. And for titles, it can be anywhere from 12 to 16. From here, we can move on to the table of contents or selected works. For this, there's going to be 2 parts to the 2 columns, which will match our left spread. On the left-hand side, it's going to be for the best image of each project. And then the other is going to be some quick facts about the project, like location, type, etc. That way anyone reading can quickly get a preview of who you are and what work to expect in your portfolio. So again, we're going to want to make sure that our graphic information is the same or contained within that left page. So make sure that you're moving your guidelines or your images and setting them up accordingly so that they fit within your mold. So here we're making some good sized rectangle frames that are going to host your image. Most of them are likely going to be renders, so make sure that you're making it wider than it is tall. Now, this is where knowing how many projects you want to include comes into place, because we know that we want 3 projects, which means we're going to need to do some trial and error to find the right size that fits at equal proportions between the frame. So this becomes a little bit monotonous and a little bit of guess and check work, but as long as you're holding Shift and Alt to drag down to see if it fits, eventually you're going to get really fast at it and see how it all fits within the mold. Once you have that figured out, copy over the information from the contact and fill out the project info with a number that corresponds. And then once this is done, you can leave this for now, and we'll come back later to fill in the page numbers when they're finally sorted out. But this is what your first page will sort of look like. So now we can head back into our working document and right click on a parent page and duplicate that. Now, as we're going here and we're making new master pages, if you ever want to see how they look, just click on the master or parent page and drag it onto your spread, and then it will fill in accordingly. But now with our duplicate page, let's head into that and delete everything on the page besides the page number and the title. For this round, we're going to be adding 2 more things to complete our content spreads. Add the project name and type on the bottom of the page so that you will now have a complete guidelines. You're going to have your type of design, work, and content in the top left of each spread, the project name and type in the bottom left, and then the page number in the right. This will be the format and theme that's going to show up in the rest of your pages. So if you make new spreads from here, which we're going to, then you want to be sure to include this information. So always Control, copy, and then paste in place. Starting off with our content, we're going to need a cover page. So head into one of your new parent pages and I'll show you how to make a really nice, full, clean bleed cover. Select the rectangle frame tool and fill out your entire space with it and fit your image. To resize your image, you want to double click until you see the orange border and then drag the edges. Make sure that when you're doing this, you're holding Shift so that you aren't distorting the image. And in the right corner, we're going to make a black rectangle that will act as a banner that will host our project details and text. For me, I'm aligning that rectangle with the margin and then going about halfway down the page and lowering the opacity down so it reads like a nice kind of overlay. As you're going, you'll notice that I'm checking back and forth between what it really looks like and in the InDesign information. So to do that and turn that off, just hit W when you have nothing selected, and you can toggle back and forth between the two. Then all we're doing is adding some text in the black box to fill out and give the reader an idea of what to expect. This should match the same as your selected works. It's going to have a project name, whether it was a studio or a project, then some data including type, size, location, etc. And then add a little blurb underneath of that window. Again, make sure that they're all, at equal distances and are contained in the black box nicely. Lastly, to kind of clean this up a little bit more is to delete the text from the top left of each page because we don't need to know what the project is because it says it right there. And then the page number from only the left spread. That way it reads like this nice clear page. Then let's go ahead and turn down the image opacity to 75% to kind of lighten up and fade back that image. And then it should be all set. Additionally, you can do a similar cover spread, but split the information up by doing a full bleed on only half the spread, and then having all of your text on the left-hand side. This will contain, all of the same hierarchy as before, with the exception that the title and the spread can be a little bit larger, and you can have a little bit more play on the white space. But that configuration could look something like this, and it's a really nice and clean gesture. So now you guys should have an About Me page and 2 options for covers. So let's finish this off by adding in those content pages. Now, since this video is getting a little bit long, I'll do 2 examples of this, but the good news, like I've said, is that I've released everything you've seen in the video and more in case you want to download these spreads. So if you're lost or just think, you can't follow along and do this alongside, then all you need to do is download those files and insert your own work and add your own creative flair to it. So check those out in the link below. But with that aside, let's create a new parent page with all of those basic information like we made before and start to fill out some rectangle frames. This spread is going to be 2 halves, each consisting of a larger image followed by 3 or 4 supplementary images that support the main image or are related to, with a very small area for some captions. On the left-hand side of the spread, we're making a rectangle frame that will take up 2/3 of the page in a vertical format that runs along with the margins, and then having 3 images alongside it with some text above. Then on the right-hand side, we're doing a similar thing, but we're doing a wide format image that takes up almost 2/3 of that page within the margins, and then having 3 images that run below with some text in the middle. Some key things to consider here are how much white space you're leaving, and to make sure that your supplementary small images are not too distracting or too detailed, as they really should just be there to kind of support the main cast and the main images. Choices for this is to use a master plan and an axon for those big images, and then some diagrammy or informational concept stuff that you have as supplements. But basically, the page could look more or less something like this. Additionally, my runner-up favorite for the master plan is one that has a left side of the spread of a full bleed image of the master plan, and then a centered sequence of things on the right spread. This could be something like a section, a series of your studies and how you arrive to the master plan. It's just a really nice balance of white space, and it has a very nice visual in nature, and there's no text involved here. So you could flip-flop this, so you have the full bleed on the right, and then, maybe your concepts, sketches, how you arrive to that master plan. There's a lot of nice ways you can intertwine your own information into something as basic as this. It's kind of the theme of this. You want to make sure that you're giving your portfolio places for images, but you want to make sure that they're kind of the focals and that they're not taking up the whole page and you're leaving room for interpretation in some way. Now that this is done, let's go back into the document and start adding all of these pages to your portfolio. Just click and drag which cover and content pages you want onto your working document, and then it will automatically be dropped in there. Now you can use as many spreads as you want, but for me personally, a good project length for one project is a spread for the cover, and then 2 or 3 spreads or 6 pages for the content. But all you have to do, and what I like to do once you have a basic format set up, is to start mix and matching and making small adjustments to each spread based on the work that you have. And then it'll start to kind of look all nice and clean together. And you'll notice that you're not able to access or edit any of these master pages when they're on your page. But if you want to do this to change the picture or something like that, then when you select it, hold Shift and Control and click on the image box, and you'll be able to activate it, and then you can change it within the document. But then once this is all set and how you like it, add your last page that will simply just have your name, education, and contact info. This is really basic. All I'm doing is kind of adding a color that, is symbolic to the other colors I've used in my titles and in the page numbers, but you can really keep it as clean and basic as you want. Lastly, all you're going to need to do is come up with a cover and you will have a completed portfolio. Now for some examples, be sure to check out my previous video on portfolios. I demonstrated some of the ones I created, but if you can't seem to come up with them, then don't worry. I've made templates for those too, and you can download that in the link below as well. But that is how to create a portfolio in Adobe InDesign. Now I know that was a lot to drop on you guys, so be sure to go back, slow down the video, and go back to points where you need more clarification on. There will be timestamps in the description so you can go back to exactly what part that you're looking for. And if I didn't answer any of your questions in the video or you need more information, be sure to drop a comment and I'll try my best to answer in the way that I can. But I hope that this video gave you all of the proper information to put your own portfolio together, and I hope that you create some really amazing masterpieces after seeing this video. So if you found this information helpful, I would really appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. It really helps me know that what I'm creating is helpful to you guys and also helps push this out to other people who may need this help. And of course, if you're interested in more landscape architectural content, be sure to check out my channel for more and subscribe if you haven't already. But that's all for me today. So thank you for watching. I appreciate all the support and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Peace.